Well, it's been a hot flipping minute. I bet all of you thought I quit by now. It's been a year, there's no way he's ever touching this game again. He's clearly well past his Touhou phase and is on to bigger, different things. That's where you're wrong, my good friends, because today, oh boy today do I have good news for you all. I've crawled out of the depths of hell, both old and new, to bring you all this video here today. I know I've kept you all waiting, and I apologize for that, but none of that really matters anymore, does it? I know what you're all here for. Today, my good friends, we are playing the 13th, 14th, and 15th game of the Touhou series. Enjoy. So it's been a hot minute since I've played. Well, kinda. You see, for you guys, it might have felt like a hot minute, but over the course of the year, I've actually been playing the games on and off. I never really quit the games at all, it just genuinely took me this long to beat them. Why, you may ask? Well, I thought since it's the third video by now and I've grown as a player, it's time to put on my big boy pants. Last time I couldn't even clear UFO and a couple of people were obviously unhappy about that, so allow me to make it up to you guys. Since I'm apparently so big and strong now, I decided to 1cc every game I played for this video. Now, do some simple math here guys. I'm doing 3 games per video, and last time we ended on 12. 12 plus 3 is 15. Do you see where this is going? Anyway, I'm getting way too ahead of myself here. I'll get to that game later on in this video, but for now, let's start with the first game I played, Touhou 13, 10 Desires. I won't beat around the bush. This is by far the easiest game in the series. It only took me around 4.5 hours to 1cc this game, and to put that into perspective, I spent over 21 hours playing UFO without even being able to clear it. This game serves as a really nice break from the insanity of the last 2 games, and I kinda dig it. This game is probably the easiest patterns in the entire series, with a really low bullet count on a lot of them. None of the parts of this game ever gave me any issues except for maybe the stage 6 boss, but that's to be expected. This is the last game of the second Windows generation era, which starts at Mountain of Faith, but honestly this game fits in better with the third generation in my opinion. Pretty much everything has been overhauled in terms of appearance. We got a bunch new visual effects, UI has been pretty much completely changed, especially the boss bar, which now appears as a ring around the boss's sprite, and Zun has transitioned to digital art, so all the portraits have gotten a new coat of paint. The past 3 games of the second Windows era have also been rather simple, with only UFO having a weird gimmick, which even then isn't that complicated. This game, however, has a pretty complex gimmick, which is actually where most of the difficulty stems from. First of all, you may notice those floating things on the top of the screen. These are spirits. Pick them up and get different rewards. The pink spirits grant you life pieces, the green spirits grant you bomb pieces, and any other spirit fills up your transmitter. Now, what is a transmitter, you may ask? If you look at the little thingy over to the bottom right, you may notice it filling up over time. That is your transmitter. When it fills up, you can activate it, which puts you into trance mode. Trance mode is basically Rainbow Ace Bomb from Subterranean Animism. It makes you completely immune to projectiles for as long as the timer lasts, meaning you have free reign to just gun everything down and collect spirits. And trust me, you'd want to collect those spirits. When in trance mode, spirits are doubled in value, meaning you get twice the amount of life pieces and bomb pieces, which is great. Now y'all may be wondering, why does this make the game difficult? In fact, having a 10-second invincibility timer seems very convenient to have, and getting spirits isn't that much of an issue when the bullet patterns are easy. Well, the problem is, the game barely gives you any resources to begin with. Even on the most optimal run, where you pop your transmitter on very life piece heavy sections, maximizing the amount you get, I'm pretty sure you can only get around like 4 extends max, meaning you can't even fill up the goddamn health bar even on a perfect run. When you get an extend, the amount of life pieces required to get another one increases in increments of 3, meaning eventually you're gonna need like 15 to 18 life pieces to get a single extend. For comparison's sake, UFO only required 5 life pieces for an extend, meaning 10 Desires can ask for up to more than triple the amount of life pieces. Now, to be completely honest, I'm not the biggest fan of this gimmick. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it's not that great either. It has led to some really crazy moments, like for example in my 1cc run, I was on the last boss Miko, and I took a hit on her second to last spell card with no lives remaining, which automatically put me into trance mode. During trance mode, I realized that I was only 1 life piece away from an extend, and also realized I was on a spell card, which means there's a guaranteed life piece drop by the end of it. So I ran up to the boss, shotgunned her to the best of my abilities, and somehow managed to get the extend, narrowly escaping death by exactly 3 measly frames. Other than that though, the gimmick is more annoying than fun, to be completely honest. It's just a huge pain in the ass to learn optimal trans routes, and collecting spares isn't really the most intuitive thing to do, and can cause a couple stupid deaths here and there. Only saving grace here is that the game is piss easy in terms of patterns, and you probably won't be needing the extra lives if you're good enough at the game. The bosses have some gimmicks to them as well, like Seiga summoning Yoshika during her fight, Kyoko bouncing the bullets around, and having Yuyoko demoted to a stage 1 boss was pretty funny. Other than that though, I don't think they're that good. The difficulty really works against them here in my opinion. I'm not sure how it is on Lunatic, but on normal I just breeze through them without really looking back. Overall, 10 Desires isn't the best game, but it was sort of a nice break from all the insanity the last couple games brought to the table. There's not really a lot to say about this game, to be completely honest, so let's just move on to the next game, Double Dealing Character. Now, I'm gonna be honest, I really like this game. I don't know what's the general consensus surrounding it, but I actually had a lot of fun playing this, and it's actually my favorite one from the 3 games I played. It's the first game in the 3rd Windows era, and along with that comes better resolution. I get to see the game in HD, which is great. Even better art and visual effects are present here, and it's overall just better in quality compared to every game that came before it. Let's get right to the point though. Double Dealing Character has an interesting gimmick, and I actually really enjoy it. Like the last 2 games, UFO and 10 Desires, the gimmick plays around staying on the upper half of the screen, this time playing around the point of collection, or POC for short. Basically, you get a bonus depending on the amount of items you manage to suck in at once when you're at the POC. This allows you to get bombs and, more importantly, life pieces. Now, unlike 10 Desires though, this gimmick is a lot more generous. Because it plays around general item drops, i.e. power and bombs, and not some one-time drop from specific enemies, you can pretty much get a life piece after you clear every wave. I think this gimmick is just very satisfying to do, and some shot apps like Remo A allow you to just sit on the top of the screen and obliterate everything that comes in, then just reap the rewards after. It's great. You can definitely die a couple stupid deaths, but you just gotta resist the temptation in some parts. This mechanic is a lot more forgiving than the ones in UFO and 10 Desires, as the POC covers the entire X-axis of the screen pretty much, so you don't need to worry too much about positioning, unlike when you're chasing around something only a couple pixels wide. In stark contrast to 10 Desires, you only need 3 life pieces for an extend, meaning if you play it well enough, you could probably cap out on lives by stage 3, which is insane. Now you may be asking, doesn't this make the game too easy? I called 10 Desires the easiest game after all, and that game absolutely starved the player of resources. Well, actually, Double Dealing Character is one of the harder games in the series in my opinion, and I'd probably place it right below Subterranean Animism if I were to rank the games by difficulty. This is mainly because the bosses are fucking brutal. The bosses in this game are a lot more gimmicky than 10 Desires, and in turn are a lot more memorable in my opinion. Sekibanki can just completely detach your head and make it follow you around, which is fun. Kagero can turn into a wolf and jump around the screen and stuff. Ben has a lot of stupid micro-dodging and lasers, which I just don't wanna talk about right now. And Seiya does what the hell? Yes, she completely flips her screen around, which technically also reverses her controls due to the changed perspective. It's absolutely insane, but it's not the worst thing in the world to get used to, and I don't think Seiya is that hard, or at least not as hard as people make her out to be. To be honest, the hardest parts of Seiya isn't the screen flipping bullshit, but this arrow attack where she shoots from behind you. This is stupidly hard to read in my opinion, and I don't think I've ever captured it even in practice. The last boss though, oh my god, Shimimaru is fucking brutal. To be completely honest, I don't think anything in the previous games can compare to her difficulty, Subterranean Animism and UFO included. The only reason she's a lot more doable is due to the absurd amount of resources you can get throughout your run of the game. She has some of the most difficult spell cards to capture, some of which I don't even know how to till this day. Not to mention her insane survival spell that grows your entire fucking hitbox. It doesn't seem that bad on paper, but it just makes everything so much harder, especially when you've gotten used to the normal hitbox after playing with it for the past 8 games. To be honest, Sakuya A's bomb hard carried me throughout this game. I tried beating it with Reimu A at first since the shot type can absolutely demolish stages, but it's not that good against bosses and I found myself struggling a lot with the back end of the game. Sakuya A is a lot weaker in the first half of the game in my opinion, but shines in the second half with how good her bomb is in addition to her homing shots. Her bomb acts in a similar way to the cherry border from Perfect Cherry Blossom. Whenever you pop it, you get a barrier around you that lasts a couple seconds. As long as the border is up, you're unable to take any damage and can tank a hit for free. If you let it expire however, you get 3 bomb pieces refunded, which actively increases the already cartoonish amount of resources the game gives you. Even with that though, The game is still pretty hard, definitely a lot harder than 10 Desires, a lot of tricky bosses, an especially difficult final boss, and a gimmick that can bite you in the ass if you aren't careful with it. However, this all pales in comparison to our next game. This is the moment you've all been waiting for, I'm sure of it. This is the main event of today's video. Let us move on to Legacy of Lunatic Kingdom. Welcome to Hell. Oh my god, this game is fucking hard. There's a lot of new gimmicks introduced and a lot to cover, so let's just start with my first experience. I launched the game completely blind like usual, with the only knowledge I brought with me being the horror stories from my comment section. I hit start and oh, a new mode. Point device, huh? Well, let's give it a shot. This is point device mode, and it's what the game is balanced around. Rather than your standard Touhou gameplay of going from stage 1 through 6 with some lives and a couple of continues, you instead have no lives but can replay sections of the game infinitely. Because of said infinite retries, Zune decided to make the game as sadistic as possible, making you deal with some of the hardest bullet patterns to date. This is a fucking stage 2 boss! This is the same stuff Satori does during stage 4 of Subterranean Animism! Subterranean Animism! Point device is absolutely brutal in my opinion, and to be honest, I don't even bother clearing it. I'm not the biggest fan of this mode, mainly because the spell cards are glorified CBT in this game, but also because I have grown more accustomed to the usual flow of things in Touhou, especially after deciding to man up and 1cc the last couple of games. I know this is what the game is balanced around, and I know a lot of people consider this mode to be easier than Legacy, which is the normal mode, but I personally disagree. I think point device is a lot more unforgiving than Legacy, mainly because of resources. You get no lives and barely any bombs in point device. I think you can only get around 6 bombs in point device mode, which is an issue considering some spells in this game can burn through 2 to 3 of my bombs. That's half of your stock for the entire game. Not to mention, this game is probably the longest so far, my 1cc being a couple minutes longer than my run on Perfect Cherry Blossom. I noticed the entire point of the mode, but it really just felt like I was bashing my head against a brick wall during some of the spells, and it felt like I was getting absolutely nowhere with it. I made it all the way to the stage 5 boss, who I'll have a couple words with later, got stuck, and just decided to stop there and play the game on Legacy mode. Now, let's talk about the gimmick. Like Double Dealing character, the saving grace of this game is that it's actually really generous with the resources it gives, provided you play well. You can cap out on lives by around stage 3 or 4, and trust me, you'll need those extra lives for the hell that awaits. The main gimmick of this game is grazing. Every chapter of this game, if you graze a certain amount and kill a certain amount of enemies, you get a life piece. Now, I'm not gonna get into the math of how this is computed, but the general rule of thumb is you want over 200 graze per chapter. This might sound absolutely ridiculous, but with the amount of bullets on the screen at all times and the reworked graze system, it's actually pretty reasonable, and you'd usually get a life piece by the end of every spell card. This game overall is a lot more straightforward than the last two, with an easy to understand gimmick and relatively simple bosses. This though is both a blessing and a curse, because this is easily the hardest game in the series, even beating out UFO in my opinion, and that just means it relies on raw difficulty to make it hard, and oh boy is this game hard. I used Raisin to play this game. Raisin has a broken bomb. If she was in any other game, this would be the most unbalanced shot type of all, quite literally making the game completely free. Her bomb activates 3 shields on you that last the entire stage until you get hit, meaning it's essentially 3 free lives. Yes, you heard it correctly, you get 3 bombs per life, which means instead of 1 life per extend, you actually get 10. No, I don't feel bad about using Raisin, and I don't care what people say in the comments, because even then, even with this beyond broken shot type, the game is agonizingly difficult. I never felt like I was in control of this game. When I 1cc the previous games, I felt very confident even going into the harder bosses. For example, in Subterranean Animism, I didn't lose a single life to Orin, a boss people consider to be one of the hardest in the series. In Legacy of Lunatic Kingdom though, every single boss fight is just a scramble to try and stay alive. Even after practice, they burn through so many of my bombs and I start sweating bullets even during the early stages of the game. Every single boss in this game gives me a run for my money, even the stage 1 boss forces me to use a bomb more often than not. I don't even know if this 1cc was deserved. Stage 5 and 6 were just bomb fests, probably the ugliest 1cc I've ever done. I don't think I captured a single spell during the last 2 stages, even though once I could do somewhat consistently during practice. This, I believe, is just a testament to the sheer difficulty of this game. This game constantly and consistently beat me to the ground no matter how much I practiced it, and it never let itself be tamed. Especially the bosses, oh my god. Let's start with the stage 2 boss, Ringo. Already, you can probably tell this is not your average stage 2 boss. While she's definitely not one of the hardest in the series, she's still absurdly difficult for a stage 2 boss. I mean, look at this! Stage 3 is not any better. I'd say Doremi beats out 80% of the bosses I've fought in terms of difficulty alone. Her last spell is completely static, but I still have no idea how to capture this piece of shit. Her nuns are very difficult as well, being harder than her spell cards in my opinion, which soon will become a trend in this game. Sankome, like Doremi, has very difficult non-spells, but she's honestly on the easier side of bosses. Her spells are pretty easy to deal with in my opinion, and in fact, stage 4 as a whole is probably the easiest stage, which speaks volumes about the difficulty of the rest of the game. In fact, it's probably the calm before the storm because stage 5, oh boy, stage 5 is rough. Clown Piece, oh boy, I hate you so much. This right here is the hardest boss I've fought in all of Touhou so far. This boss absolutely towers over people like Byakuren or Shinyomaru in terms of difficulty alone. Let's start with a list of why that's the case. Firstly, her nuns are ripped straight out of the devil's butthole. She fires waves of stars that move at light speed, all the while firing lasers that force you to dodge in place. I hope your eyes can keep up with this because guess what? She has one of the biggest health bars you will ever see from a non-spell, and it takes ages for these attacks to end. Next, she has not one, but 2 survival spells. Why? Her second one can be routed and is completely static. Not that it made it any easier for me, but her first one is total RNG. In fact, her first survival spell is apparently easier on normal than it is on hard. So why do you do this? Finally, she has the single hardest spell card in the whole series in my opinion, Flash and Stripe, the spell that made me drop Point Device. It's a very fast macro dodging and laser spell that is absolutely impossible to deal with in my opinion. It forces you to run through multiple rows of stars within around a second or else you get killed by lasers. I have no idea how people micro dodge that fast all while moving up the screen, but this spell was just undoable for me. Junko, the last boss, while easier than Clown Piece in my opinion, is still fucking hard and is probably the second hardest boss in the series. Apparently, in the lore, this boss breaks the rules of the spell cards and is out to just straight up murder you. Well, he didn't need to tell me that because what the hell are these attacks? Micro dodging, oh how much I love it when the boss shoots a flat wall of bullets at my face. She's got the complete package as well, curvy lasers, survival, and a complete RNG final spell that I've heard is impossible to capture. I didn't want to take any chances on my run though and made the most of my bombs. At this point, my heart was beating out of my chest and I just wanted to be done with this game once and for all. Oh my fucking god, yes! Fuck this game, bro. Oh my god. Jesus fucking Christ. Easily the hardest game in the series, and I don't think anything can top this for a very long time. Well, I sure hope that was worth the wait. Again, really sorry this video took so long to come out, and I promise the next one won't take nearly as long. I generally enjoyed the games I played this time, and despite my struggles with Legacy of Lunatic Kingdom, I'd maybe go so far as to call it one of the better games in the series, being more enjoyable than 10 Desires even. My enjoyment for the series is still going strong, and I find myself going back to the older games every now and then, even once seeing them. If you guys are interested in seeing my runs, please do check out my second channel. I dump game replays and whatnot over there. To me, nothing scratches that itch much like Touhou does, and I don't think my interest in the series will ever die out no matter how long it takes for me to make videos on it. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I hope you all stick around for more. Well, that's all for today. Thanks for watching.